Good morning. Here's what I think about a gathering like this. If we're here just for another nice set of spiritual talks and it doesn't shake us up and we leave inspired and maybe feeling a bit of an uplift, we do, don't we? Just by the talking of spirit, we do feel uplifted. But what happens then? We go back, and within a week our life is pretty much the same. Our purpose is pretty much the same. Our circumstances are pretty much the same. Then I think it's a complete and utter waste of time. We might as well go to the movies instead, or do some gardening, or go to the beach. Because we haven't lifted ourselves into a greater sense of our true identity, which infallibly changes our experience, our practical experience. It cannot fail to change our practical experience. So this is what I want this to be. This is what I feel this already is. But we need you. We have to be open and say, well, actually I'm not willing to just have another nice weekend. I'm ready to change my life. I'm ready to change the purpose and the activity and therefore the experience of my life. If you are ready for that and therefore will open, just be open to it and be ready to receive it, then we can see what many of us would call miracles happening in and as our lives, as our beings. So you've got to tell me, if the answer's no, then I'm going. Because I spotted some beautiful countryside and I'm going to go out there and enjoy it. If you're ready, then let's do it. But we're going to go deep. We're going to shake our bones a little bit. We might cry a little bit. We might realise we've wasted a lot of our lives. We have to be shaken up and arrive at that place where we start accessing our true identity. Stop being happy with this false identity that is material, that is this world. Being happy with this world. Or very unhappy with this world. There's a mixture of both in this room. Right? Some of us are happy. We're perfectly content. We'd be perfectly content to pretty much go on like this, listen to a few more talks maybe, and then go to our grave and move on to the next experience, whatever that's going to be. Everything's fine. Got enough money, got enough friends. I'm healthy enough. I ache a little bit. My hair's falling out, but I'm happy enough. Or we're going through some great trouble with health or wealth or happiness or love. Something. There's a combination of that in this room. So we have to be prepared now to say no. Both of those scenes are not the truth of me. Even if I have everything materially that I could possibly want, that is nothing to do with the truth of me. At all. It's just as much an untruth of me as great poverty or great sadness, great loneliness, great injustice. It's just a grain more light is showing through, just a grain, and so it makes the world look more harmonious. But that's all. That's not the truth of you or me. So, are you ready? Do you give me permission? Because we're going to go deep. Yes?
Yes.
Sinners clapping. You are at the moment. You wait. In fact, Santa Cruz got the brunt of this. And the second day was actually very difficult. It was very difficult for me to listen back to, actually, in some places. But on the third day, it was extraordinary. Because the sword cut out all the nonsense. And then on the third day we were ready. It was very beautiful. So we're going to do the same here. So you better take some aspirin or something, because... But you agree, it's time, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Apparently, you said that. Yeah, it's true. It's true. You might not know it yet, huh? Is that what you're saying? You don't know it yet, but you've arrived, you're here. You couldn't possibly be here if you weren't ready, actually. the whole of the human condition, whether at its best or at its utter worst, is a matter of a sense of separation from what we call God, or the infinite self that we are, the I that we are, the infinity that we are. This whole appearance, this whole experience is us sensing a separation from what we really are. It's as simple as that. It looks from where I am that you are over there. Right there is that sense of separation. It looks as if this recorder, this table, all these people, all that world out there, Sainsbury's, Costa, the food in the fridge, is separate from here, does it not? And that's impossible, because there's only one presence, one I, one being, one substance. So the truth is that all is right here, and yet this sense is that it's not, it's over there. The sense is that I only have so much in my life, and either I'm quite content with that, or I have this sense of being deprived of many things that I want or need, just to even have a free life, materially. But even if I have great wealth, or great love, great companionship, great success, great happiness, it's still a measure, isn't it? I have so much I can count it. There's the sense of separation. Always. So, this is the first point to remember. This whole experience is the sense of separation from I, from God. The whole thing. And that experience comes really in three ways. Number one, we experience what we call materiality. We experience form and hardness, weight, amount, movement, all of this. We experience the corporeal, the material. But actually, of course, what we really are is incorporeal. We are spirit. Nothing else. We're not spirit and anything. Spirit doesn't produce wood that we can make a table from, or a body that we can run around in for a while, or recorders, or money, or success, or customers, or friends, houses. Everything is spirit. There is nothing but spirit. Full stop. And yet, we experience what we call materiality. And again, that is simply because we experience a sense of separation. Now we have a sense of being something other than that which we really are, spirit. There's the separation. The very fact that I'm experiencing wood and a table is the sense of separation. Because actually the only thing that's here is spirit. Me and the table are one. And what is that one? God. There isn't anything else. Spirit, whatever we want to call it. The word doesn't matter. God's just a three-letter word. Doesn't make any difference. I, thou, Spirit, God, the infinite. Doesn't make any difference. You use whatever word you want. Call it John or Mary if you want. Doesn't make any difference. But it's that sense of actually me not being spirit, but me being human, me being this person. So that's the first thing. We sense corporeality or materiality instead of our true sense, which is spirit, incorporeality, immateriality, the formless. We are the formless one, infinity. But we sense ourselves as this. That's the first thing. The second thing is that because I, God, the infinite, is infinite, now think carefully about this. Because God is infinite, we're all happy with that. God is infinite. By the way, are you all happy with the word God? I, Spirit, we're okay. I couldn't use the word God originally, but I'm happy with it now. Or reverse it, call it dog. It's fine. It's fine. But are we happy that whatever we're going to call it, I, is infinite? God is infinite. God is the infinite. Are we happy with that? You can't contain what we're calling God or I. Not even within the mind or within this sense of us. Or within silence. You cannot contain I, the infinite, within our silence of meditation. It's impossible. So we have this sense of withinness, don't we? But that's impossible. The only presence, the only being, is the infinite being, the infinite awareness. So here we are again with a sense of separation, because our sense of awareness is finite. Absolutely everything that we can name in our entire existence here is finite, because we can name it. As soon as you name it, it's finite. Do you see that? Think of anything. Even our concept of the infinite is finite, because we can't capture the concept of infinity. So we look out there through the Hubble telescope, and we're still seeing finiteness. Because now we've got a picture of what we think is this vast galaxy, or galaxies, billions and billions of galaxies, but we're still, there it is, as a picture, it's finite. And we can talk about it here, it's finite. So, everything that we know is not it at all. Everything we know, even everything we think we know about spirit, is not it. And that is why we cannot experience it. That is why we struggle. Because we think we have to know, and we're trying. And it's impossible, we can't. So everything we know, everything we try, doesn't work. Does it? Does it? Nothing we can think, nothing we can say, of course, nothing that even we think we can do or be. Okay, I'm going to be silent. So how many thousands of hours have many of us sat in meditation, and still we are aging, still our money problem isn't sorted out, still our companionship, our love, our business, our world, still the world is suffering, isn't it? And yet how many millions of hours of all us truth students combined around the world sat in silence thinking we're doing something about it? We're not really it's either us that's not very effective, or God's taken a holiday, because if meditation, if silence is actually the presence of spirit, then how is there still tsunamis and earthquakes and volcanoes and poverty and injustice and cruelty and lack? How can that possibly be? So something's not happening around here. And the reason is that we think we are doing something. We think we are being something. And our intention is wonderful, but nevertheless we think we are being something, or trying to be something. And we're not. We can't be, because we think we can. We have this sense that I'm doing something here. Even I'm doing silence. That's not it. So there's this second sense of separation, is the fact that actually the only being, the only mind, the only awareness is the infinite. In the psalm you find God's awareness is infinite. His awareness is infinite. Well, you are that. Are you not? Unless you think you're something else other than Spirit or God. There's only one presence, one being, therefore you are it. Now certainly our awareness is nowhere there. But you are it, what else would you be? If God is infinite, we're happy again. God is infinite, yes or no? Okay, so then that's God, that's God, that's God. Otherwise we've got infinity plus something, which is impossible. You are it. You are God. Now, don't go to Costas and tell anyone that. But you are it. There is nothing else. There's no other presence. And you are the fullness of it. As we know, infinity can't exist in parts. Otherwise, again, it wouldn't be infinite. If God was God and God is infinite, and there's a little bit of God called a grape, and yet there's more over there because it's bigger, that's bigger, so there's more God here than there, then there's something very wrong. Infinity is at every point in space at the same time. The whole of infinity, the whole of everything, the whole of God's Spirit exists at every point in space at the same time. Every point of itself at the same time. The whole exists every point at the same time. Think. The whole of what God is, you are. God isn't divided into 14 or 15 here, do you think? For 6.8 billion of us now on the planet. You can't divide God like you can a cake. The whole of Spirit is right here as you. The whole of this universe, the whole of infinity is embodied as and in your being, your consciousness. The macro is in the micro, in other words. It's not the other way around. There's not a macro with lots of micros. The macro, the whole, is right here. The whole of God is embodied in and as your consciousness, because there is only one consciousness. And it is it. The third way we sense this separation is adopting a personal sense of being instead of the truth, which is the impersonal sense of being. We think of ourselves as me. What will I wear today? We've all chosen, right? What will I wear today? What will I eat today? What will I read today? Who will I meet today? What will I do today? What have I got to do today? Because my life is in a bit of a mess. Or it's not as full as I'd like it to be. Or it's not as spiritual as I'd like it to be. So I think what I will do is I'll jump in the car and come to Audrey's for the weekend. You see, it's all we live in this little container of our world. And everything's about me. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's everything wrong with that. Because while we live in this little container, we cannot possibly show forth even a measure of the whole infinity of being that we are. It's impossible. We're trying to capture God, or we're doing it unwittingly. We're living in this little container called me, and in that way we're seeing just a grain of what actually is our infinity of being. You are the infinite being. Think. And then think back over the last week. What have we done? How have we acted? We are and we have infinity of being and thing, substance, awareness, knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, life, abundance. We are and have the infinity of infinity. The whole of everything, infinitely, is embodied in and as your consciousness. This consciousness that you're conscious with. This very consciousness. You're conscious of the person next to you, are you not? You're alive, you're conscious. You're conscious of me, you're conscious of these words. That very consciousness is the whole of God. And everything in it, of it, the whole universe is embodied right here, happening right here as this very consciousness that you are conscious with, that you're using to be conscious of all this with. Isn't that incredible? And yet we have contained or tried to contain it, and we've shut in that way the whole thing out, apart from this little grain that we've called my life and my needs or my desires or even my wishes, my intentions to be a fuller person, a more giving person, a more spiritual person, a more fulfilled presence of being, a purer showing forth of the infinity of being that we are. So we've created this personal sense instead of realising and then beginning to live the impersonal, infinite I, the infinite self. Okay, so this whole experience, the whole world, everything happening in and as this world, everything happening in and as this body, the appearance of this body, everything happening in and as the mind, and everything of it. So all relationship, all companionship, all sense of what is, all desire, all reference point, everything is down to this sense of separation for those three reasons. So now, let's have 5 or so minutes just closing eyes. Don't do anything with what's come out so far, just let it do you. You'll understand why this sense of humanness never has to do anything apart from, and never can do anything, actually. But also you never have to do anything. It does you. The infinite does you. The infinite is you. Isn't it ridiculous to think that the finite sense can influence the infinite reality? The infinite reality is already happening fully as itself as you and me, but we don't know it. That's all. It's only a matter of us not knowing it. But that doesn't stop it happening. It doesn't stop it in full beingness. Right now as we sit here, right now, you are the whole of the infinite happening gloriously and perfectly as you. So don't think that we have to do something now. We definitely don't, and the very act of trying will block it out. So just sit with me for a few minutes and just empty out, just become a nothingness, just bathe in your truth, like bathing in the sun. That's all you do. Bathe in the sun in a deck chair. And let whatever is begin to now filter through. And you're not trying to get any realization. You're not trying to feel like bliss. Just sit and relax and let. manage to be in nothingness? Or were you trying a little bit? I sensed a lot of trying. But we'll drop that as the days go on now. You were trying, weren't you? Did you want an experience?
I just wanted my mind to shut up.
Mm-hmm. It will. All right. So let's first begin to dismantle, or better, dissolve the sense of you, the sense of a personal you and personal me. First thing to do. And I can see some worried faces actually straight away. But you see, many of us think, well, whoa, I can't do that. I'm holding everything together back there at home. Or I'm just about holding my health together. Or I've got an appointment on Tuesday morning. As the personal self dissolves, there is the heavenly self. If we close all the curtains in this room and we do what we could call dissolve the darkness, even though we've now got comfortable and okay with it, we're in the darkness. If we dissolve it by opening the curtains, got to be careful I don't hit you. We don't have to wait. There's not a void before the sunlight is there, is there? It's there on and as the opening of the curtains. It's instantaneously, we're there. And it's the same as we dissolve the personal self, there is a greater measure of the fullness of self. And always experienced in what we call material ways. Again, it's impossible to have the sun without light and heat, isn't it? It's impossible. And the rising of the personal, the rising of the impersonal self, the true self, is what we describe as material good, or material better conditions, better body, better world, better abundance, better career, better success, better relationship, and so on. There's no delay. You can't have a higher awareness of self and then be devoid of good, because again, there is only one. Spirit is happening right now as this. You can't have spirit without what we interpret on our level of, or our degree of awareness, materiality. It's impossible. If spirit wasn't here, this couldn't exist. Spirit is existing as this now. Spirit doesn't produce this. And nor does the human being. The human being hasn't made plastic out of something. Spirit's produced some elements and materials and we've gathered them and made them. No. This is spirit. Everything is the fullness of spirit. This isn't just a pen. Sila, we did this in Ashford, right? I took you around and we realised this is the fullness of God right here. It's not a pen. It's experienced as a pen in our degree of awareness. But the only form, the only presence, the only substance is always current tense. It's right now. It's ising. Spirit is ising, and we interpret this as the various forms that we perceive at this level of consciousness. Do you see that? So it is absolutely impossible that as our consciousness rises, that suddenly there is better body. It's called healing of the body. It's simple as that. Or it's called greater abundance. There it is by this afternoon. I'll tell you many experiences. Every single day, emails come flying in. Oh, I'm better. I don't need the operation now. Or that migraine I've had for 30 years isn't there anymore. Or last week, a bankruptcy. We're going bankrupt tomorrow. By tomorrow, all the money was there that saved the bankruptcy. It's simple. As awareness is here in a higher, purer way, so is what we call the material good of that sense of consciousness. It's simple, it's all present here as one. It sometimes seems to take some minutes or hours or days or even weeks or months if it's lodged in consciousness very deeply and firmly. I just can't let it through yet. Then certainly it seems to take time. But it actually doesn't and hasn't. It's here right now. All your good is here right now. Perfect life is here right now, in and as your body. Perfect mind is here right now, in and as your body. Perfect abundance, success, love, relationship, home, community, earth is here right now, existing fully, gloriously. It's just a matter of how long it takes for this thing to let go and clear the way so that suddenly it's there. It's exactly the same as if, we've had a good metaphor, and that is, if we could slow the light in the cinema right down so that it took, let's say, 3 days for the image coming out of the projector and the film to reach the screen. If we could do that, and yet in the film we had, let's say, a sick person be healed. Let's say, in the film, a sick person is now healed. Straight away. Healed. You are now well. You are now healed. You're whole. Right now. Or a person in poverty. Hardly enough money to even get by for another few days, let alone pay everything by the end of the month. Let alone have a few luxuries like an ice cream or a visit to the cinema. You know, I've experienced that. We may have all experienced that. Suddenly, it's changed. Right now, in the film, it's changed. The miracle has happened, so the mind would say. Okay, or there's a great relationship problem, let's say, whether it be a love relationship, a one-to-one, or a community relationship, or friend. It's just a nightmare, and it's changed. Genuinely and deeply, it has changed. In the film. Now imagine that we've managed to slow the light down. We're all sitting in the cinema, and it's now going to take 3 days for the light, for that change to hit the screen when we can suddenly see it. Now tell me, has the change happened when we can see it on the screen? Or has it happened the moment the light hits the film? It's already happened, hasn't it? It's happened tangibly, in what we would call tangibly, the very moment the projector light hits the film, that far away from it, it's happened. But now, because for one reason or another we've slowed the light down, it takes 3 days, or 3 months, or 3 minutes to get to the screen. Isn't that interesting? And that's what happens with them. That's exactly what's happening with the mind. The finished kingdom is here right now. You are the finished kingdom. You are the utter perfection of being, in all its fullness, in all its glory, right now. Nothing has to happen apart from this mind getting out of itself, emptying itself out, so that a greater degree of awareness of the perfect mind, body, abundance, earth, community can be visible to us, visible to this sense. That's all. That is all. Jesus says, look up, the fields are already white for harvest. Do you see, the kingdom is finished, but you don't see it. In the Gospel of Thomas, he says, the kingdom of heaven is spread all over this earth, but men do not see it. It's finished. There's no incomplete God. Do we really think that? God's not complete yet? He's still got some work to do. So by 4 o'clock he'll be more complete than he is now. Do we really think that? It's ridiculous, isn't it? This is the finished kingdom. The only being there is the completely finished being. Infinitely perfect. Infinitely life itself. There's no other kind of life. If you're alive, I'm guessing you are, because I didn't see you rolled in a wheelbarrow. I saw you walking in. There's some life there somewhere. If you've even got a grain of life, if you can even do nothing but flicker one eyelid, then actually you are the fullness of life. You've got no choice. You're either the full or you're nothing. And you're definitely something, I think, right? We're something. You've got no choice in the fact that you are the whole of life. You can't slice up God. You can't have a little bit of life. It's impossible. Try and cut me a little bit of gravity and bring it over here and put it on the table for me. Can you do that? Or try and capture a little bit of sunlight and bring it in here and put it on the table for us so that we can benefit by it. It's impossible. You cannot divide God. You're either the fullness or you're nothing. You are something, therefore you are everything. So why do we experience this finite amount of the infinite being that we are, which embodies the whole of infinity? Everything in it, of it. It's because of the personal sense, the material sense. The sense of separation. There's a me called this name. But no, there isn't. It's fine, we'll continue to experience the me with this name, but it won't be me with this name anymore. We'll let everyone else think that and call us that. But we are the walking infinite. And we really can be. It's actually so simple. We really can be the walking infinite. And it's a matter of just dissolving this sense. Alright, so let's start doing that. But you've got to be prepared to let go of everything you know, everything you hold dear to you, everything you think you're holding together in your body, in your family, in your relationship, in your life, in your business, in your work, in your enjoyment. You're ready to let go of those things that you really enjoy, of this life, perhaps. Only in the realization that, let's just get that right. I am not saying that we become an ascetic, sit under a tree and meditate for the rest of our lives. Get skinny and, don't enjoy the fruits of life. No way. But what I'm saying is that what we think we enjoy doing right now as a human, personal, separated sense of being is nothing compared with the joy, the fulfillment, the pleasure of even a slight measure more of our infinity. Being is fulfillment with a capital F, and then experienced with a lowercase f, because it becomes an experience that's finite. Still will be an experience that's finite, but there's a knowing that actually this is infinity pouring through here. And I'll tell you that if you think you've ever experienced love, if you think you've ever experienced the greatest joy, or greatest fulfillment, if you think you've read the greatest book, or seen the greatest movie, or seen the greatest play, you've been to the most beautiful beach, you had the most fun in your life, you don't know anything. Nothing. So don't think that I'm saying give up all these great things and become some kind of holy person that is deprived of the good things of life. We don't know what life is. It's like living in a 3-year-old's body and trying to tell the 3-year-old, don't worry about growing up, because as you grow up you can experience way, way more pleasure, more fun, more fulfillment than you can when you're 3. And they say, no, I'm staying right here. I'm staying right here as a 3-year-old. Come on. We are the infinite fulfillment itself. Let it be. But in order to let it be, we've got to drop what we think we know, what we think we're holding together, or need to. You see that? The 3-year-old has to grow. Can't hold on to being 3. I'm kind of looking out here, wanting to see from you that you're ready. What do you think? Are they ready? No, you've just been kind. I don't think they're ready at all.
Paul,
Yes.
I'm really scared.
Good.
Because
Good.
everything financially in my life is falling apart. It's been a really good impression, but looking like it's going really bad.
Yes.
And I'm running around frantically trying to do what I can to stop that happening, because if it's just me on my own, no worries. But it's my wife and my son, and it's affecting the relationship, and it's affecting everything.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. And the notion of, letting go of that, it's appearing through the mailbox that far away from just something financial that's going to screw me for 14 years. How do I let go? It feels like if I let go of that, then that's it. Can't afford City, divorce, everything. And I'm scared because what I feel I'm holding on to is crap. And the thought of just letting go of it, well, things get even crapper. And I'm scared.
It's very scary. We live in fear, don't we? I remember for the best part of 7 years, my whole awakening took about 20 years, and the last 7 of those years were hell. 7 years of hell. And they appeared mainly as financial problems, same as you, exactly the same as you, except without family at that stage. But relationship that I thought was everything, but also health, both with disease. And so I spent 7 years, the best part of it, I was like a jelly. I was shaking in fear for 7 years. We've all experienced that, I think, haven't we? With something. You used to go to bed shaking with fear, sweating with fear, waking up, just literally shaking with fear. So I know. But here's the thing. How long have you been holding on and trying to fix it? And how much has it changed instead of getting worse?
It hasn't been getting better.
Yeah. And we think we're holding our world together, just by one tiny bit of tissue paper. We've managed to avoid that next court problem, or that bankruptcy, or that, losing our house, or whatever. We think we are, but actually we're not. We're just getting worse and worse. Or our health, right? Whoever has had illness or disease, we think that our activity with the doctor and the pills and the operations and the whatever we're doing is just about holding us together, but we still don't feel as good as we were before that illness or before that disease. We still don't have our freedom. And so on. We think we have great problems with relationships, we never can find that true love, and that tears us to pieces. Whatever our problem is, it tears us to pieces, doesn't it? We all have our own problems, but each of our problems are the worst one that we would wish to have. Isn't that right? And yet the other guy, we wish we had the other guy's problem. I wish that I'd had a relationship problem, not a financial problem. I could have handled that easily. But no, it was finance for me. And then disease hits, and oh no, I wish, again, relationship, no problem for me, but disease now on top of money. God, what is all this about? Unless we begin to truly, we don't need much actually, but it does have to be true. And there's the catch. Begin to realize our true identity as the infinite being of life, love, abundance, joy, fulfillment, harmony itself. And we therefore give way to what we really are. We give up the human effort. And we know why we can and must, and then, we finally do. Unless that happens, we're going to continue with this. But the very moment it happens, the very moment, the same second that it truly happens, just as in the same second we open those curtains, we have light. In the same second that we truly give up the human sense of having to struggle, the human sense of life and keeping everything together, there is our fullness of abundance, our healing, our love, whatever it is. The dropping of the personal sense is. It is. If I do this and hide my face, and we're scared to take the book away because we've been relying on the book. That's a good little metaphor that's come up right there, because we hang on to these books, don't we? Got 1,000 books and I keep reading all of them at the same time. Isn't that our experience? But it must be in the other one. It must be in that 500 book down there. It's still not there. But, if I do that, and now my face isn't here, the removing of the book reveals the face. You can't have no face. Well, I don't think so anyway. Be a good magic trick. It's impossible. So the very moving or dissolving of this that we're holding on to reveals this that's really there. And you see, even it reveals a little bit, but that little bit is enough to change our whole human sense of life. The whole thing.
How is that done?
Well,
I hear the words and I read the books and I listen to the points and think, okay, but nothing changes in the way.
Because you're hanging on. We're going to do this again, but do remember that if you read one page of any Joel Goldsmith book, if you read one page of any Paul Gorman book, if you listen to 1 hour, even one 10-minute segment of anything that we have ever said, the answer is there. So you're not here to find out anything new. And if that's what you're looking for, then it's the same as you going off to that 500th book and looking on page 73 and hoping that the answer will be there. It is not, if you haven't recognised it already. So pay it a lot of attention, because, again, we will go through this.
It's the knowing it intellectually, isn't it?
That is useless.
But yes, it's just getting that inner awareness.
It is twofold. One is the human activity that we have to do to empty ourselves, so that the real activity can now be the presence that we are. We do have to have that first intellectual or mind activity. As came out in one of the Friday classes, we have to use the mind to get rid of the mind. Think about that. We need to use the mind to get rid of the mind. And then once the mind is not there, suddenly the fullness is there. What we're talking about is the human sense of mind. There's only one mind, but our human sense of mind is this tiny fractional finiteness, and therefore we use it to get rid of itself, to empty itself. And in that emptying, suddenly there is the fullness that we are. And because of oneness, literally there isn't even a millimetre of distance or time between spirit and the appearance of spirit in this sense, and immediately there is the abundance, there is the health, there is the love turning up from your doorstep. Quite literally.
When you say use the mind to get rid of it, how do you do that? Is that by knowing? Well, that's your main question. It's by knowing the truth, isn't it? Yeah, okay, I'll give up that.
See, I could actually just go to Costa right now. You could just discuss all this with yourself. By the time I come back, you'll say, okay, I'm done. Which is true, actually. You do. You are it. We actually never need anyone called a so-called teacher. You know that. You are your own teaching. You are the whole of the infinite. It's really a bit of a joke to have, or to think that here are students and here is a teacher. It's not true. We're all the same. I am a student of you, really, and I really feel like that at the end of every moment with people. It's really beautiful because there literally is no difference. And actually, it is true that anything you think is coming out of a so-called teacher or a book or something is only coming out of your own self. You couldn't receive it. You could not receive it. You could not understand a grain of it if actually it wasn't your own awareness happening. But again, there's this sense of separation. It looks like there's a you being a student and there's a me being a teacher. It's total nonsense. It's happening as you. And if this so-called image of a teacher wasn't here at this moment, it would come through something else. You'd find it in a book. You'd find it in a conversation. Oh, God, what did she say? Oh, my golly. Oh. Or you'd find it sitting in the garden. As long as you were open. See, the only difference is, think about this, you are more receptive now than you are in your normal day-to-day life because you think you're coming to classes or a retreat. Think about that. So you're here receptive. But usually we walk around and we're not receptive at all. We're all closed up thinking about our little world. And it's because of that receptivity that you are that this is possible for you. But you certainly don't need me, and I don't need you, because I am you and you are me. We're the whole of the infinite. So always remember that. You don't need anything or anyone in order to witness such immeasurable glory of the self that you are. Never ever need anyone. In fact, in here there's a chapter that says if you were the only person in the world, think about that, there's no help, there's no teacher, there's no medicine, there's no bank, there's no customer, there's nothing. Yeah, your situation is the same. Imagine that. Your situation is the same. But now, there's no one, there's nothing to help you. At all, nothing. Then actually that's the best thing that could ever happen to you. Because then you're forced to be here. You're forced to come to your withinness. And there, in and as your withinness, you would discover your complete harmony right here. It would travel right around the globe to find you if it needed to. Or it would come out of the rocks, it would fall out of the clear blue sky. It's impossible that your tangible good cannot be with you because it already is with you. The only thing that's happening is that this mind is literally clouding out the visibility of your perfect life of body, of mind, of world, of community, of abundance, success. You are the whole of abundance. You are the whole of all the money that man has ever produced. What is it? It's spirit. You are the whole of spirit, fully manifest. There's no unmanifest God. Otherwise, we haven't got oneness. We haven't got omnipresence. Think. There's no unmanifest God. There's no God that's spirit over here or within there somewhere and then becomes manifest in this human experience. It's nonsense. Therefore, if that were true, God would have to be doing something more. Actually, I'm not complete. I'm complete as spirit, but I'm not complete as materiality for all my mates down there. It's nonsense. There's only oneness. You are spirit. You are spirit. Everything, everywhere, is spirit. And the whole of spirit is right here. This is spirit. This is spirit. Spirit. It's only that our concept of spirit is suddenly splayed out as an infinite variety of what we call things and people and experiences and activities. But that is our perception of what we really are and what everything is, which is 100% spirit and never changes. God doesn't change and become a grape. Can you imagine that? or a pound, or a vineyard, or Africa, or a TV. God doesn't change. God is, full stop. And all the isness that ever is already is. It's all done, finished. This is the finished kingdom, but it's the finished kingdom of what? Spirit. Only. Not this stuff here. This is just a concept of what we truly are. That is all. And so this is the first aspect now of how we begin to dissolve this sense of us. So let's go for it. We'll do 10 minutes or so, and we'll have a little break. Buddha is the first in history, recorded anyway, to have realised the truth of this appearing body, mind, world, and the world circumstance, which is dire, is it not? We look out at this world and we have both utter beauty, don't we? Just awe-inspiring beauty and grandeur and richness, mainly nature I'm talking of now. It's just extraordinary, isn't it? It's so very deeply beautiful to this sense. And then we have the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, and it is beautiful, astonishing. Look at any of these David Attenborough programs. I love those programs. They are unbelievably astonishing, aren't they? Incredible what nature is and what the animal kingdom is. And even I can hear your mind saying, yeah, but there's also cruelty in the animal kingdom. There isn't actually. We can go through that later, but there is no cruelty actually in the animal kingdom. And any appearing cruelty will soon dissolve, and the lion will lie down with the lamb. The lamb will lie down with the lion. They actually are already, and it's only this human sense that makes it appear otherwise. But then we come into the so-called human arena on this earth, and there comes the trouble. So just looking out at humans, we have astonishingly beautiful humans. There are a few of them around, aren't they? Where it's just stunning how beautiful man or woman can be. We have amazing examples of life, great fitness. Look at sport and dance and theatres. Beautiful examples of fantastic fitness and health and life. But we also know that the very next hour that seeming life can drop dead. And we've seen it happen many times. We also know that it can be very sick and ill and deformed humanity. There can be the most immoral humanity. There can be the most unjust and cruel humanity. So this appearance is all the material appearance, all collective consciousness, which embodies both the extremes of good materiality and the extremes of bad and depraved materiality. That is what this sense of mind is. So collective consciousness, the whole man, woman, collective consciousness. And remember, there's only one. It's not yours or mine. There's only one mind. But we're experiencing that mind so fractionally, so dark and dimly. And it is this appearing physical world and body and so on. And it contains both dark and light, both good and bad, or bad and good. And that's our experience. So, on the whole, we're not in a very pretty position, because we need at least to be rid of the bad humanity, do we not? At least, before we can even enjoy, relax and see the glory of actually what is a very beautiful world and a very beautiful being called the human being in its pure state, right? We have to at least lift out of that degree. Trouble is, we can't if we believe the good and not the bad. We've got to understand that both the good and the bad is this collective consciousness. And it's not it, it's just a very dark degree of it, of the one. How do we do that? How do we begin to drop this? Well, the first realization of Buddha was that actually this world, your body, your being, that we see in what we call out there, even if we imagine I, the pure I as being the very core of us, even before our mind. It's the very, very core of us. So what we're saying is out is even the mind. So the mind, the body, and then everything globally that appears out. The whole thing is perfect. It is heaven. There's not a single grain of anything out of place, imperfect, lacking, limited, unjust, in and of the mind, the body, and the world. Think about that. This world and everything in and of it, you and everything in and of you, is the perfect divine being and world. It is heaven. There is only one place. So how can it not be the place? Heaven. However, we then have to explain something, right? Because it doesn't appear like this at all. However, and if you read the first 6 lines of the Dhammapada, the sayings of Buddha, it's right there, the first 6 lines of the Dhammapada. It is that the sense of perception, which means it's happening in here, is what is at fault. That's where the problem is. The problem isn't out here, the problem is in here. There is no error out there at all. All seeming error is in here and is nothing but the perception of collective consciousness. It is as if we are looking out at that beautiful garden, or let's say that's the reality, and we paint an ugly concrete scene on that window. And we've been born into this room, and so the only experience we've ever had is the concrete scene on the window, with litter all over the place and injustice all over the place, poverty all over the place. Certainly there are a couple of nice trees and pieces of fruit, and a couple of nice people out there, but there's also a lot of ugliness, a lot of depravity, a lot of ill health, disease, unhappiness, sadness, loneliness. But where is that experience? Is it actually what's out there, or is it that it's painted on the window? That is exactly what this experience is. Painted as our perception is collective consciousness. Now that changes the entire situation, because we realise that we don't have to do anything with the world. It's already perfect. We don't have to do anything with our abundance, our life, our health, our relationship with the world, with Haiti. What is Haiti? What is that disaster? What is the oil spill? What is the volcano? What is the earthquake? What is the starving areas of Africa? What is the cruelty and injustice? It's not happening out there. It's happening as the perception of collective consciousness. And all we have to do is drop the perception, clean the window. And it's not even us that has to clean that window. We'll go through all of this. We can't clean the window. We are the window. We are the problem. Imagine the window cleaner cleaning our windows with black bitumen paint. That's not going to help. That's all we've got is collective consciousness, so we can't do it. Grace does it. It's the activity of grace. It's the dropping of this sense. It's the realising this is just perception. It seems very real, of course, but all it truly is the realisation that there is nothing but the perfect here. And all I have to do is let grace wash my windows, wash perception, and suddenly revealed is the kingdom. The kingdom is revealed. It is not healed. It is revealed. Now we'll take a break.
I hope you enjoy this spiritual audio. Like, share and subscribe for more.